Markets are seeing a rebound on Tuesday with the equities indices up, but importantly, gold is also up along with silver. Gold is up 2.5%. Silver is up 5.5%. Joining me today on Tuesday is Peter Hugg, Global Trading Director of Kitco Metals. Peter, what's happening today? Why are we seeing a rotation of capital back into basically all the indices that I'm looking at?
Well, specifically on the precious metals front, as we spoke last week, the drop that we've seen over the past, 3 or 4 weeks, in my opinion, didn't justify the macro view of what was going on in the market. And yesterday or last week when we spoke, I suggested that my line in the sand was 1775, and that level held. And again, I've been very, very constructive this market, suggesting, again, from an investor perspective, traders have had their heads handed to them in this market. But from an investor perspective, any type of pullback here should be seen as either a buying opportunity if you don't have metals in your portfolio, or certainly if you're looking to average some of your positions down to take advantage of any price dips, because the macro picture has not changed. So overnight and this morning, there's been some jabber in the markets that there may be a fiscal package put on the market before the end of the year. I'm still skeptical, but either way, this market, whether it's the U.S. market, the Canadian market, the Canadians just announced $100 billion in a fiscal package. I think the highest since the war. The Europeans are going to do the same thing. We need to bridge this gap until a vaccine takes effect, which I think is still, other than frontline workers, possibly is still from a general population perspective, somewhere late spring. So in the interim, there's going to be considerable fiscal stimulus added globally to these markets. And I think that's just very constructive, the precious metals. One other thing to bear in mind, if you go back over the last 5 years, sort of the December window, and there was some weakness coming into December as traders that were along the December contract, a lot of them didn't roll their positions into February. So that took a bit of pressure, that put a bit of pressure on the market as well. But generally, seasonally, December, January are excellent months for the precious metals. So we're coming into a seasonally strong time. And then you add the fiscal stimulus package that should be here no later than, I would hope, no later than the end of January, but ideally by the end of this month. And you have a sort of a macro picture which points much higher for the metals.
Well, you said you're skeptical that it might happen by the end of the year. Why are you skeptical?
Well, because it depends on the size of the stimulus. You have a lame duck president. It depends right now.
900 billion is their proposal. 900 billion.
Well, the Republicans would have to put that forward. They control the Senate. So and then Nancy Pelosi has to agree with it. And if this isn't done under the Trump administration, Biden's, unless the Democrats win the 2 Senate seats in January, and then have control of the Senate and the House, the Senate might put a roadblock into how much the Democrats want to put on the table when Biden comes into office on the 21st. So that could be problematic. So I'm hoping it gets done this month. The Democrats can agree with what the Republican proposal is going to be, and hopefully that way Trump can take credit for it and he'll push it through as well. So that's my hope. But again, given what you're seeing in the political front right now, it's a big question mark.
So it looks like stimulus rumors are what's pushing up both risk assets and safe haven assets today. It makes sense because it's constructive for both of these things. But judging from what you're saying, there's a chance it might not happen by the end of the year. So how confident are you that this rally in precious metals can be sustained?
Well, I'm bullish the market in 2021. Whether this is a dead cat bounce, I don't think it is. I think this market is probably going to move higher throughout December into January on the metals front. But even if it's a dead cat bounce and we retest the lows, I still see 2021 as the first quarter 2021 very bullish for the precious metals.
What are the lows for you, Peter? I know we talked about this last week. Have those levels moved for you?
1775 again is still my line in the sand. If it does break through there on a closed basis, it's possible we may see as low as 17 and a quarter on gold. We may see silver if it breaches 22 on a closed basis, testing 20-ish. Anything under 20, I'd buy it. I think 1950 is a significant support level for silver on the downside. Anything in the low 20s, in my opinion, on silver is a buy. And on gold, I think anything south of 1800 is a buy. You may need to be patient, but I am very constructive next year.
Silver outperformed gold today. Does this surprise you at all? Is it behaving like a monetary metal?
No, it generally happens. I mean, whether the market is, gets nailed on the downside, or whether you get, sort of a quick move on the upside from in a percentage on a percentage basis, silver is always an outperformer relative to gold.
Okay, yeah. Long term, I remember last week you told me long term you are bullish on silver because of an economic recovery that you're projecting, which is going to boost industrial demand, and stimulus certainly helps that, doesn't it, Peter?
Again, I mean, my context on the metals next year is that if we do get stimulus and the economy goes into full recovery mode, I would expect that the demand side of the equation will push inflation up. I think the central banks are going to be behind the curve globally on inflation. I think that 2021 portends well for a precious metals bull market to continue.
All right. Well, let's say stimulus happens, because in many countries it's happening either way, but suppose the economy doesn't recover as strongly as you would like, would you still be bullish on silver?
I think if the economy doesn't recover as quickly with a stimulus package as expected, I think the central banks will continue to be aggressive with their monetary easing. I just don't see the central banks putting any kind of brakes on their stimulus and their liquidity. And I think they'll figure out other methods if we can't do it from a fiscal side, from a government perspective, other methods to add liquidity to the market. So I'm extremely confident that the liquidity that we're seeing injected into this market will continue for probably most of 2021.
Yeah, the dollar was down today. Was that a significant factor in today's uptick in prices?
Again, they're thinking that the U.S. budget deficit is well in advance of say the EU and on a GDP basis and certainly against Canada, and that's why you're seeing strength in those currencies against the dollar. I think Powell's made it very clear he's going to stay at zero as long as it takes, and that context, the Europeans are a bit further ahead in at least controlling the current surge than we are in the United States. So the anticipation is that the dollar should weaken through at least the first quarter of 2021. And I think we're seeing signs of that starting. I'd like to see the euro close above the 120 level and stay there, and then I think the dollar might be starting a downward trajectory.
A final question, Peter. Given today's moves, how are you trading this week? Are you buying into strength? Are you waiting? What are you looking at?
Well, we bought support the other day. I mean, you got to can't just talk it. You got to walk the walk. And at 1775, we went long gold. And silver at 22, it was there for a brief second. It was probably there for 5 minutes in trading. Just went a little south of $22. We bought there as well. Again, you've got to buy these dips as an investor. As a trader, it's a scary trade when you're buying support. You saw what happened at 1850 when it failed the third time. It lost almost $75. So you buy support with a tight stop, and hope that your models are right. And we were right yesterday by going along at the support levels.
All right, excellent, Peter. Well, thank you for your update today, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, David. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Kitco News. Stay tuned for more updates.